Welcome to the Explainer. So look, if you operate a UV flatbed printer, you already know that consistent, flawless output, well, it's the absolute lifeblood of your business. But these incredible machines, they've got hidden pitfalls at literally every stage that can totally derail a project and honestly just drain your wallet. Today, we're diving into a definitive masterclass on optimizing your workflow and preventing that dreaded, costly downtime. So grab a notepad because we're going to break down the top 10 mistakes you absolutely need to avoid. Let's kick things off with a pretty hard truth. $800 to $2,400. Yeah, that's the average cost of just a single unscheduled printhead replacement. It's a massive expense, it causes terrible production delays, and you know what the most frustrating part is? It's almost entirely preventable if you just have proactive control and the right daily habits. To make sure you never have to face those kinds of crazy bills, here's our workflow arc for today. We're going to cover pre-print file preparation, environment and surface control, machine setup and inks, perfecting the curing process, essential equipment maintenance, and finally, the daily operator checklist. We're tracking a print job right from the computer screen all the way to the post-job cleanup. All right, Section 1, pre-print file preparation. Getting it right before it hits the machine. Because a ruined print often doesn't actually start at the printer, it starts right at the designer's desk. It's honestly incredible how simple these first two mistakes are, yet they ruin jobs all the time. Mistake number 1, using incorrect color profiles and low-resolution images. UV flatbeds need specific ICC profiles matched exactly to your ink and substrate. If your file is under 300 dpi, your output is going to be dull, blurry, and pixelated. Just not good. Then there's mistake number 2, neglecting your file layers and bleeds. Missing a tiny 3 to 5 millimeter bleed leaves you with these really unseemly white edges. And if you forget that crucial white underbase layer, you're completely ruining the opacity, the depth, and that edge-to-edge professionalism you need on dark or transparent substrates. Moving on to Section 2, environment and surface control. Taming the room in the substrate. Because the physical environment heavily dictates how your ink behaves before it even touches the material. And that brings us to mistake number 3, ignoring your room's temperature and humidity. The sweet spot here is a crisp 20 to 25 degrees Celsius with relative humidity sitting between 40 and 60%. Just take a look at this matrix. If your room gets too hot, the ink thins out and dries way too fast. Too cold, the ink thickens up, giving you sluggish flow and really annoying nozzle clogs. Now, if humidity spikes, you're going to get condensation on your substrates, which literally repels the ink. No way around it. But if it drops too low, nozzles dry out and the ink actually cures right inside the heads. You absolutely have to control the room. Which naturally leads us to mistake number 4, ignoring surface tension. We measure this in dyne levels. Think of low dyne plastics, like polyethylene, for example, as having this invisible, non-stick coating. If you try printing on those without treating the surface first to boost that energy, using stuff like a flame, a corona treatment, or specialized primers, you are absolutely guaranteeing poor ink adhesion. The ink's just going to wipe right off like water on a freshly waxed car. Still on mistake number 4 here, because another massive surface control failure is just totally ignoring static electricity. When you peel protective films off those plastic sheets, you're creating a static charge that acts like a giant magnet for dust in the air. So neutralizing the material in free air before it even goes onto the vacuum table is absolutely essential. You can use an industrial anti-static blowgun, kind of like the one you're seeing right here. Failing to do this, you're basically guaranteeing that debris gets trapped right under your ink. Okay, Section 3, machine setup and inks. Calibrating for flawless execution. Precision right here is literally the difference between a crisp, beautiful image and a substrate you have to throw in the trash. Mistake number 5 is incorrect printhead height and alignment. It's a really delicate balance. If you set the printhead too close to the substrate, you're risking these devastating head strikes that can physically damage both your material and your incredibly expensive printhead. Plus, it causes heavy ink buildup. But if you set it too far away, you're looking at blurry prints, fuzzy details, and this nasty ink overspray that'll actually pollute the internal components of your machine. And that brings us to mistake number 6, using the wrong ink formulation for your substrate. Like say, trying to use a rigid ink on a super flexible material. Combine that with mistake number 7, which is ink starvation. Ink starvation is an absolute nightmare. It causes mid-print color dropouts and banding. To stop this from happening, you gotta verify that your ink system has reached operating temperature before running dense jobs. You also really need to replace your ink dampers every 6 to 12 months to keep that flow perfect. Oh, And a quick special note on white ink. It contains heavy titanium dioxide, which settles really fast, so you absolutely must make sure it gets properly agitated. Next up is Section 4, perfecting the curing process, sealing the deal with UV light. Now, UV curing is incredibly fast, but it requires a very, very delicate balance of energy. So mistake number 8 is setting your curing parameters incorrectly. There's this super common misconception out there that just blasting a print with maximum UV light automatically makes it tougher. Well, spoiler alert, it doesn't. Overcuring actually causes photooxidation. It physically destroys the chemical bonds on the surface, making the ink brittle and completely destroying the adhesion between overlapping ink layers. Plus, if you blast sensitive plastics like polycarbonate with way too much short wavelength UV light, it actually breaks its molecular chains and turns the material this ugly yellow color. Not what you want. Moving to Section 5, Essential Equipment Maintenance, protecting your investment. Because hey, the print might be done, but the job sure isn't. Unmaintained printers are basically ticking time bombs for a shop's profitability. Mistake number 9 is neglecting those UV lamps. Degraded UV lamps are a hidden culprit behind undercuring and ink delamination. You really can't just install them and forget about them. You need to check the quartz glass every single day for ink mist contamination, clean the reflectors weekly, and actually measure the output monthly with a UV radiometer. For context, mercury vapor lamps typically last around 1,000 hours. The second that output drops below 70%, it is absolutely time for a replacement. I really want you to remember this quote. Proactive control is cheaper than reactive repair. It is absolutely crucial. And that brings us to mistake number 10, skipping your daily printhead and capping station cleaning. Look, when you skip this, UV ink cures right on the rubber cap lips. That prevents a proper seal, which leads to dry out, and this kind of negligence directly leads to those devastating $2,400 repair bills we were talking about at the very beginning of this explainer. Which brings us to our final part, Section 6, the Daily Operator Checklist, your 15-minute daily defense plan. To make completely sure you never fall victim to those massive costs, we are wrapping up with a non-negotiable routine for operators to maintain consistent print settings and equipment health. All right, here is your 15-minute defense plan. Step 1, always run a pre-startup nozzle check and purge any missing lines. Step 2, gently wipe the printhead faceplate in a single direction using a UV-safe isopropyl alcohol solution. And remember, never scrub back and forth, just one direction. Step 3, clean the capping station rubber lips and the drain port of any crusted ink using a swab. And finally, Step 4, verify your ink system temperature has reached that optimal 30 to 35 degrees Celsius before you even think about starting your first job of the day. So, I'm going to leave you with this thought. Are your daily habits protecting your printer, or are they just slowly breaking it? Understanding these 10 mistakes is just the first step. The real game changer happens when you immediately implement this checklist on your shop floor. Safeguard your equipment, perfect your prints, and keep your business running flawlessly. Thanks for hanging out with me on this explainer, and hey, happy printing!